Today on Things I Found Online, we are finding viral tweets and parenting tips with comedy writer and producer Kirk Riddell and parenting coach Catherine Salzberg. I am Louise Blanker here with Jamie Alcroft and Lori Roggenkamp. Welcome, panel. Look, we're in show business.
Yay!
So we're going to open with something that I've been thinking about that I've been finding online is like all this talk about Joe Biden. And I want to just kind of like take a slightly different look at the story that has obsessed social media. So the warmth and affection of Joe Biden. And I do believe that Joe Biden is a good man. He's also famous. He's been famous most of his adult life. And so I would like to posit that he has been socialized differently than you and I. Here's an example. When I was at Premier Radio, I met Carol Burnett. Mm-hmm. Carol Burnett, everybody?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Wow.
I told her that I had
we're
been...
supposed to say
yeah,
wow.
Oh, Carol Burnett. Yeah.
Wow.
Show
Everybody?
business.
Okay, thank you.
So I told her that I had been deeply moved by her book. She put her arm around my shoulder and walked and talked with me down a hallway for a while. We had just met.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I loved it. Would I have loved it if someone entirely new to my brain had done that? I don't know. But she was Carol Burnett. Joe Biden knows he's Joe Biden. He has learned that he is already familiar to people and that they welcome his personal connection. He is reading the room. He does get it.
Yep.
Your thoughts?
Yep. Well, I think it was really, really wise of them to change his play on music. It was "Can't Stop Feeling." That was his music that they used to play him.
There's
on
a
with.
song called "Can't Stop Feeling."
Can't stop the feeling. Can't
Oh,
stop
can't
the feeling.
stop feeling.
Can't stop
Oh, now it's funny.
the
Okay.
feeling. I swallowed love.
I edited your.
Did Carol Burnett smell your hair?
She did smell my hair.
I thought you were going to say
And-
his walkout song was "Back That Ass
Because
Up."
I think
Back
I think
to-
they focus on the wrong part. He's like, I hug everybody, and it's like, yeah, that's not what people are mad about. They're mad about you rubbing shoulders and.
We don't
Smelling
know that he
hair.
was smelling
Yeah.
her hair. He was behind her, and I assume that he's usually breathing. Does she have eyes in the back of her head?
I mean, she said
would-
that she was smelling her hair.
I would like to see video.
I just think it's.
She's a
likely
Bernie
that-
girl.
I think it's likely that he was not aware that he was making her uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, I think
And
that,
of course.
it's because he wasn't. He's from a generation where they don't really think about whether or not they make
I
other
don't
people
think-
uncomfortable.
I don't think he
And
was
I think
making her
that's-
uncomfortable. He was there to
But
endorse
she said
her
he was.
because she's a Bernie person.
Yeah.
But if
They're trying to
if he made
fracture
her
us.
if he made her uncomfortable, then that
I
don't
just,
know, to
don't
me,
think-
I
yeah.
just don't
I
believe
think
her.
it's unfair to make politics
I also
about someone being uncomfortable in their personal space.
I'm just
Like,
saying I
that's a
don't.
personal
But Lane,
thing,
my
you know?
point is I don't agree. I don't believe her. I think she's lying.
I think she is too.
I think I would believe him more if I saw more video of him doing the same thing to men. I think the fact that it's women to me makes it seem like once again this is a guy who just kind of takes that physical space with purely women. You know, and if he's such a, an everyman and he does it with everybody, then we should see him,
Yeah.
walking up behind men and rubbing their shoulders.
Well,
think he
I have
does.
seen the
I think he
photographs.
does.
Yeah, I've seen
Okay.
those photographs on Facebook.
Okay.
Whether
Well, then-
it's true or not,
and-
they may have been retouched.
I don't.
to be honest with you, I don't
Sorry,
think this. Oh,
bad,
sorry.
bad expression, bad choice of words. I think they
don't
were
think
retouched.
Oh,
this should
retouched
be-
photos. I get it.
I don't think this should
Jamie.
be a huge issue. I don't think this should warrant him not being able to run for president. I just think that, and he addressed it. He said that he would, and I think that that's something that's all. I think that's all we can ask is just to say, hey, this made somebody uncomfortable. He said he's sorry. And then we go, okay,
And
then
move on.
go forward with it. If
Yeah.
he does it again, then yeah, maybe we should go, hey, dude, rethink your life. But I think that the people who are making it crazier are just the people who just have nothing to do all day. And
Well,
they just,
I want to market a shampoo called Joe Biden thinks my hair smells terrific, and
I think
Yeah.
that I agree. I think he seems like a nice guy. I do not think he should be president and would love for him to drop out gracefully. But I think that the thing you brought up is the celebrity issue. The idea that he's been socialized differently is, I think it's more that than generational.
I really
Because
do.
I think that
think
I've
so?
been around,
Yeah.
younger famous people who have no apparent boundaries with personal space, but
Right.
people love it.
Right.
Because look, this famous person just put
Right.
their arms
Hug
around
me.
me.
Interesting.
And when my daughter was a baby, her mom had her in a store, and a guy said, Oh, I love babies. Can I the smell of babies? Can I inhale your baby? And she looked, and it was Dustin Hoffman. And
Dustin Hoffman wanted to inhale your baby.
And she handed our daughter to Dustin Hoffman who breathed deeply from the top of her head, and then handed her back.
And
then we talked about
he handed her back?
Yeah, handed her back. But we talked about it later, and she was like, yeah, if some random older guy in a store said, can I breathe the top of your baby and get that new baby smell, I would report him to security. But it was Dustin Hoffman. It was an honor to have our child inhaled by Dustin Hoffman. So I think that, again, Dustin Hoffman's had his own issues that have come out, and I think sort of boundaries and space and celebrity and entitlement and stuff. But I think that celebrity socialization is interesting.
It is interesting. It's a whole...
Well, I will say Dustin Hoffman has had issues with women coming forward and saying that he's been inappropriate with them. So, I think that...
They should stop smelling like babies.
But I will say that I do, with the thing with babies, I do have a thing where anytime I have a baby in my hand, I immediately kiss its forehead. And I found out that that's apparently weird to some people. So, and I just that's just my go-to.
But you're famous.
I know, I am. I'm famous. I'm famous to me.
But I just think some people are touchy-feely. You know those people. We all know those people.
But you do still have to read the room, as Lane is saying. You have to read the room. Does someone want me to grab them? And Carol Burnett knew that she could probably wrestle me to the ground and I'd still be okay with the encounter.
Well, I'm like that too. I tell you, I feel if I can just touch one person every day, I don't have to touch myself quite so frequently.
I
We'd all
don't
enjoy
necessarily like being touched. But I will say I'm a huge Melissa Peterman fan. She's a comedian, actress, comedic actress. She was on Reba and she was on the show Baby Daddy. And so I met her one time. I was doing a stand-up show at a marathon, and she would just happen to be hosting it. And I walked up to her and I said, I am such a huge fan of yours and I love everything you do. And she got up and immediately hugged me. And it wasn't something that I was asking for. And I definitely was like, oh, this is happening. But I was excited that I'm not going to be later on be like, she made me uncomfortable. But, because it's just I was telling her something and that's how she chose to react to it. And so it was just a nice exchange. But yeah, so I think definitely personal space and boundaries. The thing that frustrates me about this whole situation is just can we just agree that going forward, we're going to say it in the moment? I just get frustrated when I think that people are I'm not going to say it now, but I'm going to say it later.
When you're running for president.
When you at a more public time. And it's just well, then what was your point? Do you really truly care about personal space, or do you actually just want to get attention for something else?
For yourself.
That's good. I like
think
that.
I mean it's a line we have to draw, but I think that gets dangerously into victim policing how victims respond.
Right.
I mean, obviously this Joe Biden thing is not giant
it's not
thing. And I think we can agree it's not he didn't sexually assault anyone. It's not that big a deal, but if he did make someone uncomfortable, that's something we can talk about. But it's we shouldn't be we can't immediately throw her allegations out because she didn't come out at the time. Look at half of the women that came out against Trump didn't come out at the time. A lot of the women that came out against Harvey Weinstein, probably all of them didn't come out at the time. When you have a really famous man that you're going
still
against.
conflating
we're not
Joe Biden's reassuring head kiss with something that went on with Harvey Weinstein.
No, I'm it's not the same, but it's part of the same conversation, and it's part of people's.
But if there's autonomy. if there's one thing to take away from this conversation, it's that it's the same.
Yeah,
I think we've agreed on that.
I also believe that everybody should react to things the way that I react to things, and so
well, we'll try. We'll do our best.
So that's. I mean, I'm just going to blanket statement say I'm blaming her. No,
but I think there needs to be a way to bring up talk about these things that aren't as serious, but are still microtransaction or aggressions, and still part of the conversation because.
Yeah.
Not every woman is sexually assaulted every day, but most women deal with getting unwantedly touched by their boss and that kind of stuff every day.
I'll tell you,
that leads to the other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it usually doesn't. And I'll tell you what we do as women, and there's three of us here, we move away. If there's a person standing too close to me, touching me, I move away. Yeah. That's how I handle it. I don't want to have any kind of awkward, embarrassing encounter or whatever, but I don't stay near the person. And that's how I let them know that I'm physically putting space between me and you, and instead of just weaponizing the encounter later when the person is up for a promotion or something, I just take care of myself and move away.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but I would also like to say that I agree with him as well, because I will say I do the same thing. I've had instances where I've had men get close to me and I've stepped away, and I've chosen to do that. But also I think the conversation that's now happening is that it's like, it shouldn't be us who has to step away. It should be the men who should be able to read the room and go, not every woman wants you to touch them and be in their physical space.
I know, but you could spend the rest of your life saying, if only Dustin Hoffman had inhaled my baby.
But my point is that
but he didn't.
It doesn't lead to it as that guy is going to do it. It leads to it as it's part of the culture that allows that other stuff to happen.
But sometimes
at some point we have to nip it in the bud and be like,
no, because you're saying that he should. You're saying Joe Biden should never be affectionate with anybody again?
That's not
No,
what,
he
that's
should
not
just.
what I'm saying, but what
Wait.
I'm saying is, don't diminish the women that are uncomfortable by him and make it seem like any woman who is uncomfortable by being touched by a man is in the wrong, because then that does is that leads to people saying, oh, well, then where's the line? Like, he kissed her. Is that? Was she just should she step away? That's what I'm saying, is that it's a slippery slope.
I know,
into
and what you're talking
justifying worse stuff.
What you're talking about is addressed in every sexual harassment awareness seminar that anybody in any workplace has ever attended.
Yeah.
And that is that there are wanted and unwanted advances, and that relationships between men and women are complicated, and there are concentric circles around which some people can get within and other people can't, and it's up to you to figure out, between me and this person, what's welcome and what's unwelcome. There are no simple answers to this. It's a
very
human
personal.
dilemma. Yeah.
And people are
very
going to screw
personal.
up. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, people are going to make mistakes, and I think the tricky thing now is, and you brought this up a second ago, like how we respond to those things. Do we address it in the moment? That would be great. But with social media, the consequences, the reactions can be out of scale, or can be,
Well,
and so I think
Yeah.
it gets tricky. Is like, people are going to do dumb things. There will be unwanted advances. There will be violations of personal space. But what happens now is you can get on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and say, here's a photo of the guy next to me on the plane who totally put his arm over my side of the armrest and knew what he was doing, and this is his face, and his bag says his name is blank.
Get
Yeah.
him fired.
And then by
Twitter,
the
do
time-
your thing.
Twitter,
Yeah.
do your thing. And so I think that maybe the guy is an a-hole and deserves to be told, don't do that. But I think that the way that we punish now, the way that we gang up on people, the way that everyone rides to the rescue or finds enemies, that's tricky new territory too.
It is.
Like, the behavior's old and needs to be dealt
Yeah.
with, and we need language for that. But we're still going to do dumb stuff.
Well, what's
the way
it-
that we
Well, we're
deal
gonna-
with the reaction is new.
I have to
and
move. I
scary.
have to move on, or we're not going to get to
Well-
any, because we could talk about this for an hour.
Okay.
But first, we're going to Google. Jimmy,
Gotta say one thing.
Get it.
They threw Kavanaugh's accuser under the bus.
they did, but that was a completely different crime.
And it becomes political. And I think that's your point about this woman coming forward about Biden, is it becomes political, and then it becomes ugly, because the things we're trying to do to treat other people like human beings with respect and consideration for their space, it goes out the window.
But they're two completely different incidents that were
Yeah.
described. And I do have to move on with the show. So we're going to Google Kirk.
We're doing a show.
We're doing a show. Let's begin by Googling Kirk, who, by way of full disclosure, is my cousin. There's Kirk's IMDb, and the current show that you are working on, Kirk, is
What a
called
fetching shot.
right. It's in shadow. I'd say
Very
it's
fetching.
The most flattering shot is the one where 90% of my face is in darkness.
That is not true. You're a very
I'm
handsome
rim lit.
man.
I'm rim lit very nicely.
So
Yes.
your current project is called Human Discoveries.
Yes.
Oh.
Can you
Okay.
please describe it for us?
It is a show that I'm doing with two lovely, talented guys about it's sort of Seinfeld at the dawn of civilization. And the basic premise is that as human beings, life is a miracle, right? But there's that tipping point in I think in human existence where we went from desperate to stay alive to being annoyed about being alive. And that's what the show is about. There's sort of that moment when as soon as you're not worried about dying every day, like you've discovered fire, like some of the big stuff has been handled, suddenly it's like, man, this fire gets hot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like maybe this wool like thing we're wearing is it itchy to you? It's itchy to
you're
me.
stuck
And we
with
just get
society.
annoyed. Yes. And we just start and we create when life should be getting easier, we find ways to make it harder. So the show is sort of about like the enemy in the show, the bad guy in the show is sort of the human brain and the way that we constantly create problems for ourselves. And it stars we have an unbelievable cast. It's an animated show. Zac Efron and Anna Kendrick are the stars. We have Lisa Kudrow, Lamorne Morris, Jillian Bell, James Adomian, Sam Richardson, and the wonderful Ed Begley Jr. And then lots of fun guest stars. And so it has been a blast. And so we've been doing that it's been a while now, but it's going to be premiering, I think, this summer.
Does
Now-
Begley's character encourage people to recycle?
We have not gone
around
there
the
yet.
cave?
Actually, Begley's character is he plays the oldest guy in the camp, who is the one with the sort of institutional memory for how hard things used to be.
Now, I have a question. Is this the reason? Is this show the reason why Zac Efron dyed his hair to look like a German villain?
It is not. It's Zach. It's fun because Zach will come in and do records, and every time he comes in, he has been on another cool trip, done another weird movie or interesting project. The hair's different, the stories are different. He's just he sort of goes off and has adventures, and we sit around the
He
middle
has
of
a-
Hollywood and grind on this show.
He has that YouTube channel now where he's just released
right.
2 videos, and I've been like, dang, these are interesting. I'm like, he's
What do
it's like what can't he do?
The
What do
dude-
people wear
the
to
dude's-
work
Yeah.
on an animated show?
That's
Like a
the fun
bathrobe
Thing.
or-
Well, that is the fun thing about an animated show is for actors, it's pretty user friendly, which we try to make it as friendly and easy as possible, and that gets people to come play. So the nice thing is there's no hair and makeup. You're not sitting around waiting for people to rig lights. There's no pressure. It's digital, right? You sit in a booth and you're not burning tape, and you do as many takes as you want to or you need to. You have a cup of coffee, and then we take care of your parking, and you go home. So it's a pretty that's it. We try to make it sort of fun and easy, and a sort of a fun, creative experience. Rather than because again, we're trying to grab people for a few minutes. It's not the Lisa Kudrow does not need to do this to pay for her car. But I think what we feel when she comes in is let's give her something fun to play. Let's let's have it be enjoyable, and then everyone has a good time.
And there's cookies.
And there's cookies.
Let me
sometimes.
ask you this.
Yes.
I'm a voice actor.
Yes.
And I've done a lot of cartoons and shows and stuff like that. And I found that when you had the ensemble there, like Justice League was great because all 20 actors were sitting around. Andrea Romano put this together, and all 20 actors would sit around in a circle. And we'd always have a guest star. It would be one of the Arquette sisters, or one of the guys from The Sopranos came in one day. And the actors who are used to hair and makeup and lights and cameras and all that stuff get freaked out that all they have to do is sit there and talk and read the script. But my point is, I found that when I did The Simpsons, I did a few episodes of that, and we would do group.
Right.
And the dynamics were fantastic. Now, if you have people come in and record their stuff by themselves, the dynamics are never going to be what they are like when you have even 4 or 5 actors in there. So which way are you going with this?
So here's the challenge. I came from my experience in animation was I did 4 seasons on American Dad, and we never recorded people in groups. We would do the table read together, so everyone would hear it
that
together.
Energy.
We'd have that energy. People would know what the story was, but then they would book their times to come in separately and read. Now, here's the challenge, though: you lose the dynamic of that group, but then it's your job as a director to create that dynamic.
Yeah.
And so it can work. Sometimes it doesn't. But I think ideally, if you're directing well, you're creating the scene and you're putting the actor. It's the same process as it's directing, right? You want to make people comfortable and give them a sort of safe, comfortable, clear space to be creative and and express themselves and give a performance. And if you direct poorly, it's going to be bad. And if you direct well, I think what we found is you can get the performances you need, and it feels hopefully to a viewer like, oh, they were all in the same space.
And then you have cleaner sound.
And yes.
You have cleaner sound.
But but that can be super fun, and I have done it that way as well. Never more than 2 people in a booth.
Oh, really?
I just I haven't had the opportunity, and it's tough. We also, we have a tough cast. We have people doing other shows and doing other projects or traveling or whatever.
Of course.
And
so I'm just talking about the dynamic.
Yes. So it's hard to get people scheduled all at the same time. But when we would get people in for table reads, so we would have that feeling of, hey, even though we're all doing different things on the side, we're all part of this team as well.
Are you
and that was
using
kind of fun.
animation directors?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh no. Oh, to do the voice.
To direct the voice actors.
No,
Who's
we
doing
do. My partners on the show and I take turns doing the directing.
that? Okay.
All right, Kirk and I have gathered you to bear witness to what happened to the two of us when we were just innocently tweeting. Kirk, take it away. What happened?
I was stuck in traffic on the way here, and my head's fried. So I need you to set the table, and
All
then
right,
I will
I'm gonna
jump
set
in
this
enthusiastically.
And it's going to be very appetizing.
Traffic in Los
So
Angeles.
Kirk
was new. It was
wordlessly
crazy.
tweeted side by side these
Oh,
two
that's
photos.
right. There
Yes,
it is.
and
Yes.
there was no language in his tweet. Can you scroll down? Yeah. So it was just I think Kirk noticed a resemblance between these two
there it
gentlemen. And so, what inspired you, Kirk?
So there was a news item about someone who had walked into a sort of
New Zealand vigil.
Yes, it was a vigil for victims in New Zealand, and he walked in wearing a red MAGA hat,
Right.
and was told to leave. I think it was in a college in Canada, I
Right.
think. And so the students sort of blocked him as he was walking in and said, "That's not welcome here, and you should leave." And he smirked and backed out of the room. And the smirk felt familiar to me. The hat and the smirk, the sort of young white guy hat smirk combo felt familiar. And I just did a quick Google search for the confrontation between the students from the school that I'm now blanking on
At
the
the
name
Lincoln
of.
Memorial.
Right, and it was a really similar look. So I put the pictures side by side and sort of felt that the pictures told the story.
So go ahead and show the tweet, and then I think I was the first reply, and I simply replied, "Does the smirk come with the hat?" Which is not unlike things I tweet daily.
Well, funny.
Yeah.
Or Kirk tweets daily. And then Kirk's tweet received 60 replies, 358 retweets, and 3.3 thousand likes. My reply received 51 replies, 124 retweets, and 3.9 thousand likes. And we were both constantly tagged in replies that that either one of us was getting. And then Kirk, like maybe the fourth one down, Kirk tweeted, "Hi, I followed that story very closely." And he's talking about the first kid with the Native American guy on the drum. "I followed that story very closely. While it was a chaotic scene, the Native American man wasn't messing with him. The teenagers were doing tomahawk chops and fake war hoops, harassing girls, and generally being entitled, insecure assholes. To many, there was ill intent." And then that just kind of like unleashed a torrent of Trump trolls.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I got like Twitter intervened and sent me a pop-up that was like, "Geez, how do you want us to handle this?" And like you could tick off like what you wanted them to block. Did you get one of those?
I didn't get that. I wish
Yeah.
I'd gotten that.
And
They probably were like, "You're a white man. You can take it."
so we both kind of received a ton of blowback. Everyone had an opinion, and like some of it was like really normal, like just regular likes and people saying, "I thought it was the same kid at first." And a lot of it was nutty. There was a guy that said, "No, what comes with the hat is living rent-free in the minds of far too many delicate flowers. The smirks are the noble trad's own personal touch, free of charge."
I don't know what some of those were.
I don't know either, but like they love owning libs, and so I think they felt like they were getting to own us. And
I think
they felt
my point, and my point in some of the replies was, I think wearing that hat at this point in time is a statement. You are making a statement.
Oh,
you
yes.
know what statement
thus
you're making.
the smirk.
And that's it. And is it a smirk of superiority? Who knows? I can't read into it. I think it's also could be the smirk of someone who is wildly uncomfortable and frozen and doesn't know what to say in a moment. Could be that too.
I think
And
First Boy, that was him. Kentucky kid.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't
And again,
think he.
not to absolve them. I mean, it's, everything that came out about that school is I mean, I think the school took their website down because someone quickly looked and they had, I think, 85 faculty members. All of them were white. There were kids who had graduated from there who had horrible stories about the school. There were photos of kids at basketball games in blackface, like offensive, like lawn jockey, like the worst. Not that there's like less offensive blackface, but I'm talking like the worst. They're like horrible kids. The mayor of the town, it was whatever, it's like the mayor of the town that shared the name. The school is outside the town. The mayor of the town wrote an apology and said, "This is not what we believe in. I literally just walked out of a meeting on diversity and inclusion in my town. I was so happy for what we're doing down here." And then like the a-hole school with the same name one town over gets in the news. So I think, yeah, those are awful kids. In that moment, does that kid think that he is a superior person? Maybe, or maybe he just doesn't know what to say and he knows there's attention on him. But both kids, a bunch of kids chose to go to D.C. and wear those hats.
Right.
And a kid chose to walk into a space wearing that hat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. And I think that there's a lot of flack and bullshit and misinformation that then gets thrown up in the social media conversation about it. But if you drill down, it's just that. It's people who are choosing to provoke. And I think that's what sort of came out of it for me is we're in a golden age of provocation. And the culture of provocation, of sort of empty provocation, is what they're playing at right there without understanding the issues or being responsible for what comes of it. The Kentucky kid, he and his mom are suing the Washington Post for $200 million or something for defamation of character. It is people. It's the I'm behind a screen, I can tap out insults and not deal with consequences. And then they can't handle it when they're in person and there are consequences.
So like any famous photo of a school in Little Rock being integrated and a little girl walking past this mayhem or madness and the faces of like every white dude. Haven't you looked at that your whole life and thought, gee, that guy must really be mortified that he's in this iconic photograph, and then you see these kids and you're like, maybe not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the hat empowers.
Yeah.
That's a strange thing. And this hat I brought today that I found online, that's just as
look at that. Yeah.
Stop him. And people say, who's him?
Right.
Well, who do you think?
Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Jesus.
which invites the next question.
Lord Jesus.
The next question is, did we tap into only Trump trolls or also into Russian bots? It's like once you hit that level of Twitter engagement, are you tapping into possibly bots and Russian trolls? And I asked because someone called me a spinster. And I'm wondering, is
Definitely
that
a
a word
Russian
that
bot.
21st century Americans would use to crush my spirit?
Oh, because
Or is that a word that a Russian person would look up and be like, oh, this is going to get her?
What is worst insult?
Yeah.
What is most contemporary, cutting edge, fresh insult in America?
She is spinster. She is not marriage
No
material.
man would smell her hair.
Yeah.
call her knucklehead. No, spinster.
Hey, use some kind of round heel, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
She old lady.
23
I
skidoo.
really served her.
But I'm really asking, Kirk, because
Yeah.
I don't know how much of the. When did you give up reading? Because I gave up at a certain point. But like, do you think we tapped into something that went beyond just American Trump trolls?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
No, and I don't know what the triggers are. I don't know what the keywords are. But yeah, there's a sort of inflection point where you go, oh, this is like, these are sort of identical fake bios in their Twitter bio thing, and it's names with 14 numbers after them. That but the location is like US of A, and and you're like, okay,
Because Lane saw this action and he didn't even know it was us. It just came up on his feed because once tweets start getting that kind of attention, they sort of pop up in everyone's feed.
right.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw your picture and I saw your comment. I remember reading does the hat come with the smirk come with the hat? And I was like, and I probably liked it, and then went on. And it literally
She must be a
it
spinster.
literally never occurred to me to read, like when you're like looking through viral stuff, you don't even read who it's from
Right.
because it doesn't matter if it's like not people you know. And then
Really?
I like saw
Really?
it in the rundown today, and I was like, that was Louise. I just had no idea.
Right.
Just like
Oh my god, I totally know her.
you were just like,
It's a B plus.
Which is about all it was when I
My
typed it.
engagement- Yeah, that's my engagement on Twitter. It's just like, oh, okay.
well, it's also the talking points too. I mean, I feel like when you get to that point where you're just saying those words, it's like, what are you saying? Like, why can't you talk like a normal person? And it's because it's either a Russian bot or it's somebody who's just heard Russian bots or in Fox News and all that stuff talk, and they're just like, I'm just going to reiterate
Right.
the garbage that I hear, so I'm just going to say, libtards and delicate flowers and snowflakes.
I don't
and
think it
stuff.
matters anymore. I
Yeah.
think they're
Well-
all the same. They just want to fill.
They just want
They
to
want to
like
make noise.
shout into the void.
But when Kirk said that he had watched the whole video very thoroughly, from several angles, because I guess a few people were
Well,
filming,
that's-
they always responded with, well, no, you didn't, because then
Right.
you would, yeah.
And that's, by the way, that's super embarrassing too. By Covington Catholic, that's the name of the horrible school.
Okay.
But yeah, that's bad too. Like I'm a consumer of pop culture and news and current events, and so what's embarrassing is to admit to a bunch of anonymous trolls, I scrubbed through 55 minutes of video.
I know myself.
Right?
Yeah.
I know about the Black Israelites. I know they started it.
Yeah. Hey,
and
my daughter needed help with homework, but
Right,
I
but
had to watch
I
them.
had this
video.
This, like,
Your rolled ankle can wait.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And honestly, as we're looking at stuff now, like the Zapruder film was short,
Yeah.
fairly easy to get through. Like if you want to get granular on that, it's just a few frames that matter. But now we 55 minutes of junk on iPhones from 7 different angles
Right.
Yeah.
to try to figure out who was who provoked the the
It's like
standoff.
instant
the guy,
replay.
He just walked up with his drum in an aggressive way. Well, not from the angle I saw. So anyway, embarrassing to admit that I'd watched the whole thing. But yes, you also realize you're arguing with people that you would not, like, if they sat down next to you in a coffee shop and started saying the same stuff, you'd go, I'm
I
not
don't care.
wasting my time.
Yeah,
I don't care
what you
Which,
think.
But
You get up and leave.
Yeah.
but to me, 85% of the things Donald Trump says, if he was screaming them on the other side of the White House fence, Secret Service would tackle him.
Yeah.
Like it is.
I love that.
He sounds like a crazy person, and yet we engage with him. And that's the thing too. It's like I'm going to answer this tweet of his, and I hope he reads my answer, and it really gets to him. And so
Well, it's the
he
whole-
is
yeah.
the uncle
It
that
is
you wouldn't
empty.
even talk to
Right.
at Thanksgiving.
Right.
Like you would just roll your eyes,
Yes.
walk into another room, pull your cousin aside and say, "Oh my God."
right.
Well,
So
just look at all the people who've left written books who are like, it's like the Voldemort syndrome where they're just like, oh, I secretly hated everything he did, but I just went along with it because I was in fear. And it's like, in fear of what?
Isn't that what Nazis said?
Yeah.
Not getting a promotion.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Kristen Nielsen, she come to find out she kept doing her job because she was afraid of what would happen when didn't have her job and had to explain what she was doing in her job. So it's just
She's
like,
at that
what?
bridge.
What?
She's at that bridge, and there's no way across or back. She's stuck. All right, I want to ask this question of you guys because I need your help. So here is a comment posted to my YouTube Cow Sales playlist. All right, so I made a movie about the cow sales. I have a playlist that has a lot of engagement. There's like a ton of people watching. These are all behind the scenes and like rough cuts and special features and stuff that I put up there. So like I like to respond to everybody that comments on my YouTube channel. And so yesterday I got one that says, "Love the cow sills. God bless President Trump 2000." Is that a Russian troll?
Funny.
Is that something they're doing now? Like randomly saying something about the video and then endorsing Trump? Like
Probably.
it's so incongruous.
I just love how they think that somebody's gonna watch is your YouTube video going, I'm gonna,
Well, it's like if I
I'm
like
pretty
what
on the
you like,
fence.
will you also vote for Trump?
I'm not sure.
Remember when
I'm
Russians
just
told you
gonna-
that we also like guns? We like guns and Jesus.
It does feel like the
We're just
work-
like you.
It
I
does
don't
feel like the
know.
work of Trump internet guru and off-brand Proud Boy Brad Parscale. It feels like that's one of his things. I feel like that's one of his let's infect random threads with
Yeah.
let's
I'll
go
do
Trump.
that.
Let's go Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
I just love the thought process of somebody being like, I'm going to watch this YouTube channel, but in the back of my head, I'm really just like, who am I voting for 2020? I don't know. And then they see that and they go, you know what? That swayed me.
Well, they
Yeah.
just said, the
That
Russians
did it.
just say, is Kausel's video. Must be spinster.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's like leaving a Zappos review. Like,
Yeah.
the sneakers fit well, and I think Biden should drop out. I'm just going to put it here. Nice guy,
Nice guy, but
career of public service, awful family tragedies.
But still-
I wish him health and happiness.
but still
And-
love the shoes.
But
Yeah.
but they were tight in the heel.
Yeah.
So not for me.
I think I'm going to do that. I was going to write an Amazon review for a pair of flip-up sunglasses that I bought that broke. So I think the new one's going to be like, 1 star flip-up sunglasses broke, but also Bernie has some good ideas, guys. Let's rethink this.
Best bra I ever wore, Camel of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved this book. I love the Game of Thrones Audible book, but Democrats, please stop running for office. Let's cap it. Let's stop.
Meanwhile, Catherine Salzberg is here.
Hi.
And Catherine, question for you.
Yes.
Have angry online citizens been properly parented?
No.
All right. So we're going to go there. Catherine is a certified parenting coach.
Yes.
And one of your theories is that there's a struggle between empathy and boundaries when people are parenting. And it is like, are people that are hovering and enabling too much of my child's thoughts, every one are perfect. Therefore, they go out onto the internet and express themselves with reckless abandon.
It all comes down to boundaries. It's an issue of boundaries today, that there are none. There aren't any. And it's about personal responsibility. And so we can't have an expectation that others are going to. A boundary is what? Setting an expectation of how you are going to be treated.
So you're talking about physical boundaries
All of
or
them.
emotional?
Both.
Okay.
So there are no. For what we're talking about, there's no physical boundaries. I mean, a boundary. What is that? It's very simple. It tells people how you are going to be treated, right? That lets people know this is a safe and reasonable boundary of. And then when they cross that boundary, you let them know what the cost is. So we have this expectation that people are supposed to read our minds. You were saying that we should be able to do it in the moment.
Yeah.
It just comes down to personal responsibility. So
Well,
when it
remember
comes
that
to
whole story with what was the comedian's name where this girl was out on a date with him and they were
Aziz Ansari.
just sitting there naked
Aziz,
and
what's his name? I forgot.
Aziz Ansari, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So it's like we were just sitting there naked watching Seinfeld, and I'm not
Yes.
sure why he didn't get my body language.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. I did feel bad for him. I have to say there wasn't a whole lot of personal responsibility there.
That's a good example of you need to use your words or get up and leave.
First of all, you need to
leaving is a strong message.
You need to first of all, and I say this respectfully to my species, okay, to my gender. All right, you can't put yourself alone in a car with a guy. All right. And then say, I want you to respect these boundaries at midnight. And you're wearing something that says, please, God, I want you to find me attractive, but don't cross over the stick shift or whatever. I mean, you have, I'm not saying that.
I mean, it's tricky.
Wait a second.
'cause,
I understand.
But you can.
No, wait a second. But let me finish.
Okay.
All right. So it just, again, empathy and boundaries, right?
Right.
You said, you were saying there's a conflict between them?
Well, I mean,
what
I
you're
think we
saying?
teach empathy,
Okay.
and parents are overly. You use the word empathy about your own child. I don't know if that's empathy or it's just like this is my child and I have to protect. That's more selfishness sometimes. I think that your child can do no wrong, and then they go online and they're complete jerks because you've sort of said, "Hey, attaboy," about absolutely everything he does.
Okay, yes. So there was a time when there were a lot of fish in the sea. So parents today think their kid is the only fish in the sea.
Yeah.
All right. So, and again, this started about 50 years ago, but this is where all entitlement comes, and there's the whole thing starts with high self-esteem. So high self-esteem, and I'm not going to go off on a whole tangent, but it does start there. Self-esteem is about everyone gets a trophy. It's about when you are wanting your kid to express himself or herself at all times, feel good about themselves at all times, and put their achievements up on Facebook and all over the internet, then that's going to create a child that's very self-focused. You're on your way to becoming a full-blown narcissist. The higher your self-esteem is, the less you're focused on others.
Are narcissists born or raised?
Well, I was raised by a wonderful narcissist. And so I would say that I don't know whether it's nature or nurture. It's what matters is you have to raise your child so they think about others. And that starts with you knowing how to draw boundaries. Really, it really does.
Yeah.
So am I making sense here?
No, I think you are. I think you hit on something, boundaries. I think it's a stew. I think that, you have to, I know for my mom, she kind of said something similar, which you brought up, which I took to heart, which is she told me at a very young age, she goes, you should be able to walk down the street naked and not have anybody say or do anything to you. That should be your right. Unfortunately, we still live in a world where that is not possible. And so she basically was just like, you have to monitor yourself. You have to be wary of your surroundings. And she's always been very vocal about the what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. And it's the same way with how I react to people. She's like, people should always treat you with respect, but if you don't get it, that doesn't mean you should in turn around and be an asshole to that person. You have to treat people the way you want to be treated. So if somebody's still I've had bosses, I've had people who are outright dicks, and it's just like, you can't treat that person how they're treating you. You have to treat them how you want to be treated. And so I think that is something my mom had instilled in me. My high school forensics teacher, I don't know why she told us this, but she told us one time that the first one's free with when it comes to inappropriate things. So it's like, if somebody gets in your personal space, if somebody does something, you tell them, you go, hey, I don't like this. I don't like what you just did. No matter what it is, if they say something, if they did. I had a boss one time who I came in, I had a new shirt on, and it and he was just like, I think you're a little too big to be wearing that shirt. And I said, that's not your call. That's my,
nice.
That's my call. And so he goes,
Mr. Vice President.
yeah. I said, Mr. Biden, I am interning for you for one reason.
Sir.
And then my friend Aziz Ansari stuck his fingers on my throat. It was really weird. It was a weird day.
Mixed signals.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually have a question for you, and I don't know if I don't mean to pivot, but I was wondering how you feel about parents choosing, because you were speaking about boundaries. So I was wondering how you feel about parents choosing now not to label their child's gender, let them figure it out.
Ooh, wait, there's a word for those babies. What? Babies.
What do you think about that?
You don't even tell them if they're a boy or a girl until they tell you.
Do you think that confuses boundaries at all, or what do you think about that?
That's a whole...
That's too much. That's too broad of a question.
I'd like to go back to boundaries for a moment.
Okay.
Because we've talked about those, and I appreciate the question.
Bookmark it.
Okay.
Touching you.
You can hold
I
up
hope that's
flag.
okay. Move away if it's not.
All right, this one's free.
But I think it's great that your parents finally did instill in you to put on clothing before you walk down the street.
Yeah.
I think that's nice.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
It's nice
Nicely
touch.
done.
It took a while.
All right, back to boundaries.
Because I think this is important because it covers, because you mentioned boundaries. So the number one thing missing in today's parenting is boundaries, emotional and physical boundaries. And if you cannot set a boundary yourself, if you're a mother, okay, and you can't set a boundary yourself, you're not going to teach your children to set any kind of a boundary. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So mothers today, there was a time that moms were respected. They couldn't get a job in the workplace, right? You couldn't run a company, but your 4-year-old wasn't going to hit you. So I have clients where they're running companies, but they're afraid of their 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're hard pressed to find a mother today that hasn't been told off, kicked, hit. I'm talking on a regular basis.
And is this because of guilt? That they meet, I spend a lot of my time away from my child, therefore when I'm with my child.
That could be.
No, they are.
Anything goes.
They are guilty, but it really started when we gave this message, and it started in about the early 70s, where the experts told us, you are an equal with your kid. What do you think? Why do you think you know so much? Who do you think you are? So that's where we get down on our kids' level and we say, hey, sweetie, I think it's time for you to pick up all your toys, okay?
Oh.
And we just wait for the kids to kind of get with the program. So parents, mostly moms, because moms are generally speaking the consumers of parenting literature. I used to laminate stuff for my husband to read. I'd say, I laminated something in the bathroom from Parents Magazine. You got to read it. He would just look at me like I was insane and go, if there's nothing connected to sports, I ain't got to be touching it. It wasn't his thing, but women were the ones. That's why a lot of, our guys look at us like, don't talk to him like that. You're going to damn it. This is what's happening it's all over the country. So if you cannot set an emotional boundary, because today's homework, your kid's homework is the parents' homework. This is what's been going on for a long time.
That's coddling.
Well, it's enabling.
Yeah.
It's the most.
Coddling.
It's right. You're exactly
Same
correct. It's a codependent relationship. So these boundaries are not being taught.
But there's a lot of different factors at play. Like one of them is like in parenting circles where parents judge other parents, and so your child is a reflection of you. And so if he doesn't do this well, or she doesn't, score a goal, or I'm the one they're going to be talking about, and I think that's part of it.
That you are correct, because if you feel that your child, if you've done your kid's science project and then you get an F. It's personal.
Isn't this why we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get my kid into USC? Mm-hmm. Is it for the kid, or is it because, I'm actually kind of famous, and if my kid doesn't go to my alma mater, what are people going to say about me?
Well, I think that's true. Yeah. And the parents, by the way, the celebrity parents that everyone's talking about, I got to tell you that the parents that I coach and the schools that I go talk, the parents I speak with, they just don't have the means to do that, but they feel exactly the same anxiety. Yeah. That's what drove those parents.
Desperation.
But they feel that it's their job to make their kids happy. You cannot raise a resilient kid if you feel like it's your job to make them happy 24/7.
Now, I have a question for you, because my mom used to shout this at me all the time.
Put some clothes on, Lori!
Yeah, a lot. But no, she would say, you don't need to like me. And so do you think that is an issue going with parents, is that they want their kids to like them?
Number one issue.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got to be, because I fell victim to that. I wanted to be my kid's best friend. And I think that's just a natural desire. That's just a natural
You have to schedule a play date, though, because they're very busy.
Yeah, they were. Well, that's the one thing we did, is we had to schedule white space on our calendar. That was a very important thing. White space. Empty days.
For family.
I was just
where
thinking
we had no soccer games, no music lessons.
Only white
friends. No this.
Yeah, I didn't know.
We only played with our white friends.
I was confused.
And ate white bread.
A lot of smirks.
With
lot
cream
of
cheese.
hats.
Yeah. But anyway, well, you know what I'm saying. We had to do that. But I fell victim to that, and then I reached a point where I realized that I had to be the parent.
When did you reach that point? How old were the kids?
A couple of minutes ago when you were talking.
Okay, thank you. That's what I said.
I had to be the parent in this relationship, and that was hard.
It is.
That was hard, because you have to make some hard choices. You have to say some difficult things to your kids.
Now, I want to throw something at you, because this is a conversation my girlfriend and I have been having. Because we've been dating a little over a year, so of course we're now thinking about adopting children. So, but
well, take your time.
Yeah, she really wants to adopt older children, and this is in the future. Like, I'm not talking about
like 33.
I'm available.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm available.
Okay.
I would prefer if we could adopt like a 17-and-a-half-year-old. No, she really wants to adopt like a 7 or an 8-year-old, which is great. But my thing, what I worry about, is that then you have a child who's already sort of got their own personality and doesn't know you that well, and doesn't know you, and then has their own personality, their own way that they've adjusted to life. Do you think that that would be an issue for somebody who, coming into a situation where they're adopted and then now they have people telling them what to do and they have this whole new dynamic. Do you think that is as big of an issue as I think it is? Or do you think it's usually like when kids are adopted, it's actually most of the time
they want that forever home,
Yeah.
and that's so
Well,
important.
I appreciate, what your question. Kids need unconditional love. Whether you're adopting a 3 or 4 or 5, 7, 12, 15, you need to focus on how you want that child to be when they're 30 years old in the world. That's the best way to parent. You want them to be loving, kind, tolerant, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if there's a 7-year-old and you're going to open up your heart and your home, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kirk,
Now you have a
you're-
great
you-
radio voice. Excuse me.
she's
Great
like,
radio. I almost
she's
called
like a
in.
nice midnight voice.
I was
almost-
looking around for a phone because I wanted to call in.
Now, Kirk, you're here with a certified parenting coach. Do you have any questions for her? Kirk is a parent.
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, because my kid and I are best friends, and she thinks I'm super cool. And
How's your daughter?
she's 14, and
Aw.
I hope she doesn't hear this because then I'm gonna get in trouble. No,
Yeah.
I'm sure I could use lots of tips and advice, but
Yeah.
we'll need another hour.
What do you think?
Yeah.
What is the most frustrating thing for you? Is it directing somebody who just won't take a note, or telling your daughter she can't have a cookie before she goes to bed? What would you wake up more in a cold sweat?
Well, directing someone who won't take a note because at the end of the day, I love my daughter unconditionally and will be fine. The actor who won't take a note, I've paid to come and do a job, and so
Big difference.
yeah. So one relationship is purely transactional, and the other one is somewhat transactional, but there's love underneath.
Paternal,
Yeah, that's your
paternal
heart.
and emotional.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do what's Twitter trending, and it was interesting today. I don't know if you guys saw, if you guys look at what's Twitter trending the way I do obsessively, and possibly Kirk as well, because we're both kind of like Twitter creatures, but what was Twitter trending way at the top was hashtag yacht cocaine prostitutes, which
Love
begs the
that.
question, why? So
Why not?
now, Kirk, do you want to explain this? I'm sure.
It's just
I assume
a
you were following it as
shopping list.
was I.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
I know that Representative Devin Nunes, who has spent the last couple of years running interference for any possible investigation into collusion, conspiracy, anything like
And
that.
suing people who piss him off.
Right.
The farm tech?
So he is a sort of Fresno area, Central Valley. That's his constituency, and he had some farmland in his family, and apparently he sold it and spent almost everything he had on an interest in a vineyard that was run by a college friend of his. So I think his assets were listed as like piece of vineyard and some other kind of vineyard adjacent thing that his friend was running, and like small checking account. That was it for his assets.
Oh my God.
The vineyard sponsored a party for investors in the San Francisco Bay. There was a boat that was chartered. There was a woman from the vineyard who was asked to like serve drinks to these investors who had won. I think there had been a raffle or something like that. They'd won a night on the boat. And she got on the boat, and it was a bunch of guys and sex workers, some of whom she said seemed to be underage, and it was a cocaine-fueled like sex
Jesus.
boat. And,
No boundaries.
Right? No boundaries. Where she was propositioned by guys on the boat, called back to the vineyard and said, "What can I do?" And they said, "Just lay low and try to not get sexually assaulted. There's nothing you can do. You're out in the middle of the bay."
Yeah, you can't walk away.
So-
my best piece of advice this whole show was walk away.
That's right. So she couldn't walk away. So the scandal was, it was a super gross
It's like if
party
somebody
boat.
sneezed and they're like, try not to get the germs on you.
Right. So it is the most, it's a glancing connection to Devin Nunes because he was not on the boat.
He was not on the boat.
Probably knew nothing about the party. But it happens that the party was sponsored by the vineyard that he owns an interest in. And so people enjoyed pointing that out and got it trending.
And may I add, he was suing a Twitter account called Devin Cow, And now, if you'll click on he loves to sue. So John Cooper's tweet says, hot on the heels of suing Devin Cow, GOP rep Devin Nunes is now suing the Fresno Bee for their story linking him to a lawsuit involving a Napa Winery's cruise that allegedly featured prostitutes and cocaine. Hence, hashtag yacht cocaine prostitutes. Scott Dworkin tweeted, and it gets even more intriguing, Kirk.
Yes.
Nearly 2 years ago from today, I broke the story about Devin Nunes' investment in a winery that did business in Russia. An indisputable fact. Not only that their distributor in Russia has a Kremlin-branded cognac, the House needs to investigate this. And then, of course, conservatives and/or Russians attempted to hijack the hashtag, and they tweeted things like, how much cocaine did Obama blow in the White House?
There you
Oh, my gosh.
Apropos of nothing.
So-
And my answer is none.
Probably.
He was too busy golfing.
My understanding is the Fresno Bee just gave a statement saying we stand by our reporting. There's nothing that we've seen in the story that we would retract based on our sources. And Devin Nunes is a really sneaky, shady little dude.
Yeah, he's a steaming pile of
He's
doo-doo.
just
A
the dumbest
politician.
person ever because
Well, he's just a bought and paid
It's tough.
for and compromised operative.
But in a group, in a party that includes Louis Gohmert and Matt
Yeah.
Gates,
All right, but
and,
here's a
and the
question.
weird dentist
Oh,
Gosar. It's
but
tough.
he is a dentist. So here's my question.
How hard
with,
is it to be a
with
dentist?
With glee,
Come on.
Democrats and liberals had hashtag yacht cocaine prostitutes trending, and almost half of the tweets were, hey, you guys, let's keep this trending, because the only person that you find when you click on this hashtag is Devin Nunes. So are we guilty of...
That's super dumb. That's a
Yeah.
waste of time. Yeah.
So
the
should we be
hashtag-
taking that much joy in, instead of it just being like, let's let the truth come out here, instead of like, oh, we
Yes.
got you, or we
Yes.
won this round
I think we
of
are.
Twitter.
That's right. We are no better than Pepe Frog, 4chan like trolls when we say, yeah, we got him with that hashtag.
Well,
It's done.
Yeah.
I think the issue comes, in my opinion,
Infantile.
I think it comes from people talk a lot about how social justice has taken a turn for the worse, which I do agree in a point, and I think this hashtag is one of those things. But also, I think social justice comes out of the fact that people are feeling like there really isn't a lot of real justice.
I think that's
You know,
a great point.
And you just the laws aren't catching up with what people want, and so I feel like people, the way that they feel vindicated is if they're like, if I can ruin David Nunes's day for however long I can keep it going, I'm going to do that, because odds are he will not see any repercussions from this.
I know, but like a temporary sense of satisfaction isn't really what is needed in our society, or to protect our freedoms that we feel are so gravely in danger. We should be striving for something much broader and deeper than just
like
I think-
like
but I think
truth and
you are
justice
absolutely right,
Yeah.
though.
in the American way.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
in a functioning democracy, I think for a lot of us, in a functioning democracy, Devin Nunes would not be in the House of Representatives
not at
anymore.
all. He's bought and paid
Right.
for.
That's it. That he would have been voted out in a fair district, or that he would have been investigated and thrown out for his behavior, for his conduct when he was head of the Intelligence Committee.
Yep.
So I think you're absolutely right. So when we sit and go, he's still blocking stuff, he's still running interference, he's still doing shady things, I think there's a huge amount of frustration and a sense of, well, if there's if the system isn't going to kick him out, then let's at least ruin his day.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's the same way with why people go online, and like you were saying about that guy, I don't know if it was a real guy. I don't know if you were just making it like a metaphorical thing. Who was like, this guy put his arm on my armchair, let's figure it out. It's like people just feel like they are accomplishing something, because it's like, maybe, there are people who do terrible things, and the worst that social justice can do is just make their lives a little terrible for a couple of days, and it's just like, they're not, look at all the police officers who are getting off for shooting unarmed black men. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is that now their pictures out there, and now they're known as this thing, but they're not seeing any legal repercussions. They're possibly, some of them aren't even losing their jobs. So I think that it's just, we're in a society where it's just like, we're just so like starved for justice.
Everyone wants to
that
feel
we
just
are
some form of empowerment.
Yeah, we are just looking for it in any way possible. And it's like, when you're starving, you're going to go for whatever's available. And I agree. I think that there needs to be long-lasting things, but that is not what is happening right now. And so it's like, if we can't say, okay, we have to stop this thing in order to do this thing. We have to do something in order to stop this thing. And I think that's the only way we're going to move forward.
Well, here's something that's going to make everyone feel better, because we're not caught up in this mess. Can you please click on what Facebook feed time? This is a Facebook post about Lori Loughlin, and all Mickey Michelle wrote is good. Not even exclamation point, just good. And it says, actress Lori Loughlin among 16 facing additional charges in college admissions scandal. So does this make us feel any better that somebody who did a bad thing has been caught?
I have a question. Is her last
And
name?
yeah, we'll have the parenting. Loughlin. It's pronounced Loughlin.
It's pronounced Loughlin.
I believe so, but I don't
Loughlin.
hang with her. I don't
haven't
bribe
seen her.
test administrators with her. Go ahead.
No, I just realized it wasn't going to be so nice. So I just,
Why not? No,
No,
but
okay,
you're a parenting coach. This affects you.
No, well, I was going to say there was a friend of mine who's suffering severe depression. I mean, severe.
Mm-hmm.
And called me the morning that the story broke and said, "This is one person whose life I don't want to have right now."
Oh, my goodness.
So
there's a silver lining.
But
Yeah.
I do, I said this already that, I believe that is, they have given us a gift, really. I think they have, by this happening. And I really do feel pain for their kids.
It's probably how they see it too.
No, I understand. No, but I'm just saying that as the parent coach, I have to tell you the kind of point of view that I take. That I feel terrible really for their children, because they steered this ship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but as I said, they are representative of the anxiety that parents feel today. That it is their job to make their children happy, to ensure their success, and that is anxiety that's driving that. So we can all take a look at, hey, where am I micromanaging my kids' schoolwork and making sure they get an A on the test Friday and get into the best schools and doing for them what they should be doing for themselves.
But if you're that parent that did all of that maneuvering
That's
to get
the
your
best
child
part.
into college, like, at what point do you get to say to her, "You're not getting the keys"? You've done really bad things. So when do you get to tell her that she's in trouble for something?
You mean to the child?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think it's reality. Listen, we're all born into all kinds of families. Life, as it shows up. Here's the deal. You know what? I got caught. I did something wrong. And you know something? It's a great opportunity. I look at life. I look at things this way because we all have a lot of painful stuff, and it's not on the big stage, thankfully, for most of us. But I think what do? You turn around and you go, you know what? I did something wrong and I'm not going to continue. I'm going to support you, but you know what? I'm going to step back because you are capable of doing it yourself. Maybe you have to go to a school somewhere in another part of the universe. I don't know. But what I'm saying is
learn a trade.
No, but what I'm saying is you say you have
that
to
be nice?
apologize for what you did. You do your time. You pay whatever you have to do. And then you say to your kid, you know what? I didn't do right by you.
It seems like
That's what you
Felicity
say.
Huffman has issued a statement of contrition.
Yeah, she's
And
already
she
pled
spoke-
guilty.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Lori, I don't know what their backstory is or whatever, but Kirk, you hang out with like a lot of show people, am I right?
Sure.
So has this been the subject of discussion?
Not among my close circle of friends, but there are people I have been with people socially who've said who know people who have been caught up in this.
Wow.
And I sort of shrug and I'm like, well, that's dumb of them.
But you got-
I have no sympathy. But
What I get frustrated with is, okay, yes, these people committed a crime, and that's bad. What I don't understand is why aren't people more going, what was the college? Why aren't these colleges having more things? Why aren't we looking at the coaches who allow
I think
these
they're
that.
looking
They
at
are doing
everything.
that now.
Not
We're
as
ju-
much.
No, we're just obsessed with celebrities. But believe me, the authorities are looking at the
they're
whole ring.
doing all of it. Yeah.
I feel
Of
like
miscreants.
this, I don't know. I feel like
also-
it should be a more of a topic about, because in general, I feel like college is one of the most like ultimate money grabs ever. And I just think that, it's ridiculous that I guarantee you there are more cons like this going on And I love how people are just like, well, I don't understand why they just didn't do it the usual rich way and just buy a building or something.
Yes,
and it's
that
like,
would have been
Like
smart.
that would have been
Yes.
okay.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like, oh, okay, so that version of crime is just now apparently allowed. But, the fact that they...
Coercion.
But at least
yeah.
that's out in the open. Like this is all kind of like cloaked and behind the scenes, and so it kind of plays upon that desperation that Kate was talking about, that we feel about our own child, the sense of desperation. Like, what if she's not okay? And you see it even if you've ever been to sort of a what's it called when you're trying to get a fertility clinic. Yeah, like I tried to donate eggs for my sister. I didn't take, but it would have been weird. Anyway, long story. But I wanted to help her, but like sitting there waiting for them.
College.
The sense of desperation
boundaries.
in that waiting room of
Yes.
just wanting to be a mom.
Palpable.
It was, you could smell it.
Yeah.
And then once you have that baby, that continues. There's this human instinct to just love and protect this creature that you've created. And it goes all the way through life. And so then there's going to be
think-
people
no,
that
we
take
don't-
advantage of that.
My
don't
mom and
want-
I... Oh, sorry.
No, good.
Oh, my mom and I we've had a contentious relationship, and my aunt told me a story a couple years ago that really made me see her for like a mom. My brother has cystic fibrosis, and my brother and I are twins. And when we were born, when he was born, we didn't find out for 6 months, and he was in the emergency room, and they didn't know if he was going to make it. And my aunt said that she went to the hospital and my mom was doing a crossword puzzle and my aunt was trying to ask questions. And my mom said, if I don't finish this crossword puzzle, I'm not going to make it. And it's just, I understood my mom at that moment. And I think that, parents they just want to do the best they can for their kids. It's just that I think that the way they go about it is they just choose, they go, I feel like this is the right thing because then my kid will get something out of it. And I'm not looking at the corners I'm cutting. I'm looking at the future.
Like everything I did
yeah.
to set up life for you so that I can sit back and be like, okay, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We've never been parents before. I mean, we want to nurture, and we don't know how to nurture. Just like Kirk said, people screw up.
Right.
And people screwed up in this situation. And I know college coaches. I've raised money to hire them to go into high schools and do programs. And they are very intoxicating and very, we can do this for you.
And then they
we
just
can
took
do
it
that
that
for you.
extra mile
And this
that-
singer
we don't-
guy said, I can guarantee you a place at USC, or I can guarantee you a place at Princeton. Now, it means a lot to a parent, whether you have the means or not.
Yes, that's correct.
What were you gonna say,
look,
Kirk?
we don't want our kids to be disappointed. And I
just
think
wanna
the problem
nurture.
is we, some parents don't create the healthiest expectations for what their kids should strive for. So you're going to be disappointed if you don't go to USC and establish your brand for your social media accounts and your Amazon's pop-up store or your whatever. In other words, like if you say that success is this or happiness is this, then if you don't want your kid to be disappointed, you're pushing them to those things, right? And so I think that's all. Yeah. So
Story
I just
has-
want to say,
oh, sorry.
I just want to ask Kate real quick before we close. Like, how do you know the difference between pushing your kid to what you know he could do if he applied himself and recognizing what's too far for him?
It's a very good question. So I had a mother of an 8-year-old. She said, my child's not living up to his potential.
Oh, my gosh.
Regarding homework, because this is what parents are focused on mostly today. They're more achievement focused than at any time regarding, and it shows up in homework. But it's about reality. You may think the potential is there, but you have to look at what your kid is actually doing and is capable of doing. If your kid's best is a C, I'm really serious. If your kid's best is a C, then you celebrate that C. If their best is a B, then that's the expectation.
But how do you know?
You know, when it comes to in any area you're talking about, I think you look at them, you see them first of all for who they are. You have to look at, you just pay attention. Let's say your kid, let's say it's school. Let's take that example, math, let's say that, you see your kid struggling and you go talk to the teacher or you talk to the karate coach or whatever it is. Tell me about give me some feedback. And you have to be open to hear, it can't be your agenda. You have to see kids for who they are, not for we see people for generally who we are. We don't see them for who they are. So that's, truly, and that's empathy. And when you're talking about, that just boundaries for 1 second, if you're, empathy sends the message to a child, I understand. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
And sympathy is pampering. Oh, baby, you don't need to be treated like that.
I see. Empathy.
When this story broke, I never felt more love from my parents because it took me 10 years to graduate college. And I failed a lot and I succeeded a lot. So I was like, my parents really love me because they let me fail every 10 years of being that stupid. They did not try and help me once. So
that's what love looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what love looks like.
I want to thank everyone for being with us today. Jamie Elcroft, Catherine Salzberg, Kirk Riddell, Lori Roggenkamp, Dina Friedman. Oh, look, it's Devin Fay and Lane McFadden. And
Devin and Lane.
And today I want to thank John Maddox and Bill Filipiak and who else works on our show?
Hey, Bill.
Steve Joyner. Thank you, everybody. I'm Louise Palenker, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.